Hi, this is Nick Williams, and I'm sitting here at my home in Finchley with Joolz Lewis. Hi, Joolz. How are you doing?
Nick. Hi.
So we've been talking about worthwhile work, and you've identified, a couple of motivators that you see working in people on their journey towards worthwhile work. What are those two forces that you see happening?
What I can see are two opposing forces that actually work together. And one of those is simply the pain of the present situation in which people feel trapped, unmotivated, unfulfilled, wondering, is this it? Life's too short. All that familiar negative emotion which weighs them down and prevents them really from fully expressing themselves in the world. Yeah. And that's the one aspect of it, is just the pain of their present situation. And then conversely, right at the opposite end of the spectrum, there's what some people would call the dream. The dream of an alternative... A vision. A vision. And
I think a heartfelt kind of idea about how their life could be, presumably.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for me, there's a transition period between where the dream can be translated into a vision. So there's actually a conscious movement whereby, you say, no, I'm not willing to sacrifice this dream anymore. I believe that an aspect of this dream can become reality. I'm going to translate that into a vision for my life. And then make a commitment. And there's an expression which is that pain pushes, vision pulls.
I like that.
Yeah. So pain's enough to just keep pushing you forward, but ultimately you need the pull. You need the idea of a better future, another alternative.
Because I see a lot of people do get stuck sometimes because they know they're in pain and they want to move, but they don't know where to move to. So it's just like they're kind of just trying to get out of pain without having a vision of where they're going to get to.
You need both.
Yeah.
You need those.
I really like that. And earlier we were talking about kind of resources, and we often think of resources as like money and networks and stuff. But you very much talk about kind of inner resources to kind of cultivate, and inner qualities to cultivate that will help people on their journey from where they are to really living the dream of the worthwhile work. So, what are some of the qualities that you think people need to cultivate?
I think that there are different aspects of the divine quality of love, if you like. One of them is courage. It's the courage to be able to say yes to possibility, rather than anchoring in what's called probability. Probability is based on the past, possibility is based on the vision of the future. So it's the courage to say yes, to say, actually, I am not willing to sacrifice my life anymore in my smallness, if you like. And that takes courage. That takes a real courage of the heart, of the spirit, to be willing to go out there. And it starts as a whisper. In my experience anyway, it starts as a kind of like a whisper, a daring kind of like, okay, yes, I'm going to say yes to this. And to then go through the journey of being able to say yes vocally out in the world. And as you say, to become visible.
Show up.
To show up. And every time somebody shows up in their yes, in service of their vision and other people, that takes courage. That's an immense act of courage every single time. And it
never stops being courage, I don't think either.
No.
I remember speaking to somebody who I admire a lot, and he talked to me about, he's very successful in what he does today, and he says it's baby steps all the way. And I think it's baby steps of courage all the way. It's not like suddenly you're going to get to a place where you don't need courage anymore. In some ways, I think you have bigger courage as you progress on the path.
Yeah.
Great.
And it's important to acknowledge it, to be able to recognise and acknowledge yourself for the courage that you're bringing to the situation. And as I said, in service of your vision. Because every time you're doing that, you're shining.
And inspiring others.
And inspiring, yeah.
Other inner resources?
I think there has to be an element of trust and faith.
In what?
In the fact that you cannot resist doing this anymore. You have to do this. You feel compelled to do this. You may have absolutely no idea how it's going to work out. It's that whole thing about we make plans, God laughs. And you can have the best business plan in the world, but ultimately you don't really know how it's going to pay out. And it's about having the trust and the faith that you will be guided in the right way to know what step to take, to know how to express that courage. and to just trust that even though you can't see the immediate results of what you're doing, that even though people may not be responding in the way we think mentally they should be, that we're still on track.
And as you were speaking, I was thinking, is it also the kind of faith and trust that a vision you hold inside you, that you can see with your mind's eye, can become something also very tangible in the world? Is that part of it for you too?
I think, absolutely. And
like the belief in a different future.
And critically as well, if I could share a personal story for that, because that was a huge transition point for me, where I realised that at first this vision that I had, which is very much along the lines of yours, that, you know, the world of business could be transformed by people working with love, just seemed to be such a huge vision that it actually stopped me from taking steps towards it, because it just seemed so big. I just thought, well, I was almost like paralysed by it, because I just thought, well, how's that going to happen? And I had this wonderful, for me anyway, it was like this whole thing, there's a cathedral in Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia, and the architect died, Gaudi died, and it was still on paper. He literally just had the idea of it. And nearly 100 years on, it's not finished. Other people have bought into that vision. It's now this beautiful monument in Barcelona that inspires people. And it's not finished, and people are still contributing to it. And I find that such a beautiful metaphor
something
for vision.
Bigger than you.
Something bigger.
In a way, you're kind of a midwife to something, and it's greater than you.
And it's not about you, and that's the other thing.
It's through you. Right.
Yeah.
And one more quality?
Yes. Patience.
I want patience, I want it now.
Yeah, not one of my not one of my hugely natural qualities, but so important, so important. I think when you commit to this journey of worthwhile work, there has to be an element of letting go of timing. And in the same way that we've just been talking about the vision being bigger than you, and therefore it has to take time. And I think naturally, the bigger the vision, the longer it's going to take. And just to have patience with the process and letting go again of any ideas that you may have of what it might look like, and just acceptance. Acceptance is another one of what is, and having the patience to just keep going.
Paradoxically, I've heard the expression that the curse of the visionary is impatience. So it's almost like often our very impatience is the thing that stops us building what we could build. Like, you know, we try and do it too quickly. It's like pulling up the roots to see if they're growing, and they don't grow because we keep pulling them up, rather than just let things grow and trust that they will have a life of their own in a way. Yeah. Great, well, it's been wonderful. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. We've certainly enjoyed having these conversations.
Yeah, very much so.
So bless you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.